Let's also chat more about the budget and how to read into the fine print. Rajiv Lal, CEO and MD at IDFC joins in. Rajiv, hi, morning. The fiscal deficit target first at 5.1% in FY13 and government borrowing program limit at 4.8 trillion rupees. What is your take on that, and how do you see the yields and interest rate moving in the economy from here onwards?
Well, I think that my sense is that people will wait and watch a little bit in terms of how the borrowing program tracks before we fully understand the impact on rates. But barring or leaving aside all credibility-related consequences for market, they should relieve some pressure on rates.
Right. Morning, Rajiv. Let's talk about a specific sector, which is telecom. Now, infrastructure status to telecom tower has been awarded. Viability gap funding, which is VGF, has been proposed for telecom tower, and there has been a mention of allocation of funds towards additional spectrum in the telecom sector. Since IDFC's total loan book has a very large exposure to telecom, what do you think this budget, and especially the moves which have been announced in the telecom sector, could do to your loan book?
What it does, it gives comfort that, I mean, there are two important revelations in the budget, or announcements in the budget with respect to infrastructure. The first is the definition of infrastructure, which has been widened and includes telecom towers as part of it. Second is what you just mentioned, which is the allocation, increased allocation of VGF against that wider definition of infrastructure sectors. For us, that's all good news, because what it tells us is that there will be fiscal support that is forthcoming to encourage development of infrastructure in a public-private partnership mode. Wherever it is the case that it will require some kind of encouragement in the form of government budgetary funding to entice the private sector to actually enter that sector. So specifically on telecoms, I would imagine that the VGF would really be relevant for rural expansion and greater penetration for rural telephony. So VGF being allocated for that purpose is a welcome thing. It will continue to ensure growth in a very important sector for infrastructure.
Rajiv, ECB loans have been allowed to part finance capex in power sector and also for specific use in sectors like roads and highways as well. What is your view on the impact of the same on your sector as well as IDFC in particular?
Yeah, actually the impact is more important than appears. First appears from the positive impact, then first appears from just a reading of the speech or a hearing of the speech. Specifically, what they have done is they have reduced withholding tax on borrowing from overseas for an array of infrastructure sectors. This is quite important, because one of the most significant challenges that we have faced in terms of enticing foreigners to invest in infrastructure related debt is the withholding tax, which had the effect of reducing the net returns to debt holders offshore. So to the extent that the withholding tax has come down, that makes such paper much more interesting for foreign investors, and therefore it will make IDFC's task of actually raising money overseas for infrastructure debt financing from overseas easier. So that's an important development.
Mr. Lal, the NHTP allocation has been increased by 14% to about 254 billion rupees for FY13, and a lot of impetus has been given on developing of road infrastructure. So what is your view on the impact of this move and how this will benefit IDFC?
Again, positive. I think on the whole, you know, when you look at it from the narrower lens of just the infrastructure sector, what the budget speech has to say was, on balance, really quite encouraging. They have revalidated and reiterated focus on improving, as you just mentioned, the National Highway Development Program's rollout in PPP format. Very positive for IDFC. As we've discussed a minute ago, they have reduced the withholding tax on foreign bondholders and investors in foreign debt for infrastructure. Very helpful for us. They've allocated additional VGF against a well-defined and coherent list of infrastructure sectors that will now comprise a uniform definition for the infrastructure sector. Also very positive for us. And finally, he has also, if I recall correctly, also reduced import duty on certain types of equipment. So power equipment, for example, the import duty has been brought down. Again, constructive and helpful from IDFC's perspective.
Rajiv, before we let you go, what's your outlook on credit growth, margins, as well as overall asset quality for IDFC?
Well, I would expect that it should all be better than last year. And last year was a very tough year for us.